or whatever board on it. But that was like 60 years ago, so. No, not quite. 50.
It made an impression though. That's what you
Yeah.
remember when you see that.
The bunk beds and the fishing and that little tin boat. Yep, fun times. Okay, we'll call to order the study meeting of West Valley City Council. It is June 28th, 2022, and it is 4:30 p.m. We're in the multipurpose room of West Valley City Hall. All members of the council are present either electronically or in person. We have the minutes from June 21st, 2022. Is there any discussion or a motion on the minutes?
Motion to approve.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion, a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you. We'll review our meetings for tonight. Are there any changes or updates, Mr. Pyle?
There are no changes. I don't think we have any changed documents or updates, do we? Nope.
Okay. Are there any questions on tonight's agenda? Okay. We'll move on to,
RDA.
that's both of them, that's what I was referring to.
Okay.
Neither one have anything, right?
No.
You're the chair of that one. Do you have anything? Or whoever, you're the chair?
Chair.
Nothing?
Nothing.
Okay. All right, and then we have a proclamation for July, or for next week, in this, the July Parks and Rec. Anybody want to volunteer to read it? Do we want to just say it is? We kind of stopped reading them, so I don't know what your pleasure is on this one.
I can read it.
Do you want to read it?
Yeah.
Okay, Tom will read that for us. Thank you, Tom. All right, public hearings. Do we have a presentation on this one?
No,
Or what
it's,
is,
This is the.
Oh, this is the
second
one
week. Yeah, one you heard last week.
and why did we continue it? Can somebody refresh my brain?
Yeah, we had a request from council back. How long ago was it?
a few months back that,
That because sometimes questions come up.
Oh, we waited the
or-
2 weeks.
Right,
That's
yeah.
right,
We're gonna bring
okay,
it back 2 weeks.
okay. So this is our second study on it. So this is the Ken Mill one, Ken Mill.
Mhm.
And it had the flag lots. So I wasn't really excited about the flag lots on that one. But what was the size of the project? Do you remember?
How many units?
No, how many acres?
Acres.
Does it
Got
fall
right
under
here.
that?
It's
Less
just-
than two.
Just
Less than two, so that it falls
1.93,
into that.
yeah.
Okay. Okay, did anybody else have any more thoughts or comments on that one?
Yeah, I don't love flag lots, but I'm okay with them if they service one or two.
Okay.
Beyond that, I'm really not okay with them, but
I was just curious if the purpose of having the two roads that go in, and maybe this can't be answered, but we're preserving one existing home there. And if that wasn't the case, could the development look or have a different feel where we didn't need those two private lanes going down?
Just from a experience standpoint, yeah,
I was
Steve
gonna
would
say,
probably have
is
the
Steve
best
the one we need
feel.
to have
Right.
come up?
He may not know definitively like you're saying, Will,
Yeah.
but he's seen enough of them. He's probably
It just
some
seemed
an
like
idea.
reading the material, we're trying to preserve that home, and this was an alternative in order to do so.
Right, and the home seemed to set back quite a ways. Are you thinking it could be a it's through street?
Or like a cul-de-sac with a bulb.
Yeah.
for a cul-de-sac, yeah.
Yeah,
So Steve Pastrick is here to answer questions.
Thank you, Mayor. So the developer actually looked at several different iterations of the concept. This is probably the fourth or fifth on this. He did actually consider one scenario where you would have a road that essentially cuts through where the house is now, so the house would have to be demolished. So it would run east and then turn north, so kind of an L-shaped street. The challenge with that is this property isn't very deep east to west. And so what you end up getting by the time you have, imagine a cul-de-sac within that too. So you end up getting some lots that are really shallow by doing that. And so that was the challenge, is just given the dimensions of the property, you end up having some really shallow lots, whereas in this configuration, even though there are flag lots, they're much deeper. So they just give you a more buildable area.
Steve, I think the builder is trying to do his best. One thing I'm concerned about, like 3 houses behind, you know what I'm saying, someone else house. So in this case, like 3 houses there, I know it's a have a long driveway from the front to the back. So can you tell me about 3 houses in the back again? Is that the owner, one of the house of the owner, or is this?
So in this case, the property would be sold and the existing home would be, they would rehab the inside. The outside's all brick, so that would stay. But so they would end up selling the home to, once they've subdivided all the rest of the property, it would be, but the existing property owner wouldn't be staying in that house, if I understand the question.
Is it the one in the middle?
It's a little bit south of center.
Oh, no.
Yeah, the area, there's a lot of trees, so it's hard to tell where the house is on the lot there.
So the one that 3 houses in the east side, they're gonna sell those 3 houses.
Well, there's no
So-
houses on them.
Yeah, but the 3 lots right here.
Yeah, those
one-
3 lots.
Yeah, 3 lots right there.
Yeah.
So the bill one, they're gonna sell those.
Right,
Right.
right. Everything will eventually be sold, including the lot where the existing home would be sold to a new owner.
Yeah, it's great, but I think it just, I don't know. Tough for me.
I have, I think I've mentioned flag lot behind my property. There's a house right behind mine and then one to the east of that one. And it's not a concern for me. It's actually been great and I love our neighbors to the back. My concern is the sharing of the lane and the maintenance of that long term. That's really my only concern with flag lots. So,
So the singular one, you have no concerns, but the
No
one where
concern.
it's joint, you're seeing potential problems?
well, because mine's joint and I can just see there's parts of the road sunk and nobody's taking responsibility for it. I don't drive on it, so I don't really care, but
Yeah,
I worry about them and future owners.
Yeah.
Down the road, so.
because again, these roads are not inspected, so they're not the quality that lasts as long as our normal roads.
Right. So for flag lots, there's no, other than just the width of the road, there's not a specification for the type of construction of
Quality.
the driveway, right?
Okay.
Just a long driveway.
Well, driveways are concrete. So if they'd be concrete, that'd be great. Because concrete never settles cracks or anything else.
Never
Never,
cracks.
no.
I know the duplex is maybe different than houses. But I have seen some duplexes in my district. It's kind of behind the one in the front. Then the front is like face to the street. And the guy behind of that, they had, in the past, they had tendency to do some wrong thing.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? Because they tuck behind the other guy. But I don't know, maybe I'm wrong because the house is maybe different, you know what I'm saying? But that I've seen it multiple times in my district.
Okay,
Yeah.
and this is a zone changes, right? So okay, we can put whatever if we feel there's something else needed, we could add to it at the time of the zone change, but we have the development agreement as well.
Correct. And in fact, that was one of the, I believe the considerations why the council wanted to have 2 weeks in between would be if there are changes you'd like to see in the development agreement, that gives us time to go back to the applicant and work that out.
And they came to me, they asked me multiple times to tell them what can we do to do with that duplex in the back there. So we'll, just watch them, monitor them and see what we can do. So I'm concerned that maybe the houses may be different, than duplexes.
Okay. Anything else? Okay, thank you. I was looking to see if you stayed for the next one. So our next one is resolution 22-117. And we have Mr. Welch on Zoom to present that one for us.
Thank you. I'm just trying to see my camera come up here. Doesn't seem to be working. In the absence of my camera, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, my apologies. I don't know what's going on with that one. This is the annual engagement with Kennington and Christensen, the auditors that have performed the audit for the city. They're independent auditors. They've met with the audit committee where we reviewed the details of the audits. It's fairly routine. As you know, we set out a timeline of the schedule for things that they need to accomplish. The major change on this one, we're actually engaging 2 audits with this action. There's the West Valley Arts audit, which is a conglomeration of the theater and the cultural center and some of the Arts Foundation in order to get some, I guess you'd call it, size to the audit so they can obtain some funds through fundraising. And then the second one is the regular city audit. That audit will be $84,000 this year. That does represent about a 10% increase. Incidentally, they have not had an increase in their audit fees except for when requested to do additional work, probably about 10 years. So it's been quite a while. They're overdue. So I would recommend this. They've also changed our audit partner this year with a gentleman by the name of Steve Rowley. I know you're familiar with Phil Warnock, who has headed their audit for a number of years. They felt like it was time to change the responsibilities to another partner. With that, I'd be happy to have any questions if you have them.
Any questions?
How many years have we engaged Kennington and Christensen?
Kennington and Christensen have been the auditors for the city for approximately 20 years.
And do we put that out for requests for?
We do periodically. We don't every year. When was the last time we did that, Jim?
It's probably been about 7 years ago. We put out an RFP, and they came back the most qualified and the least cost. And we seem to be pleased with their audit services. Like I mentioned, they periodically switch their manpower up so that we do get objective information out of them. And we felt like we've had a pretty good audit out of them.
There's 2 things that we encounter whenever we do put it out for bid. So this is never a surprise. Because these guys have been doing it for so many years, they just have the knowledge and the economy of scale, so to speak. That might not be exactly the right term, but they always underbid the other auditors because the auditors also quite naturally view us. We're one of the most complicated municipalities in the state. We've got our own housing authority, all that sort of thing. So they tend to kind of pad up their bids. So they're always more expensive. So when we actually look at changing auditors, it's almost more from the standpoint of, and there are 2 schools of thought on this too, is it just time to change the auditors and have somebody else doing that? And like I said, there's 2 schools of thought as well too. But we've been very happy with our auditing services in the past. We haven't had any problems with them. And their bids, whenever we do it, are not by like a few dollars. It's by such a wide margin that we just never have seriously considered changing them.
Yeah, there's a number of advantages and I suppose you could say reasons why auditors sometimes would be changed. For the current auditors that we have, we feel like they have a very in-depth understanding of the city with the complexity of it. Many times our current auditors, Kennington and Christensen, will use us as an example of how to perform certain types of audits or certain types of engagements between the entities that we have with the housing authority, the building authority, all the different enterprise funds. And it's been a benefit to us because we will usually approach them when something comes up that's new and they're able to sit down with us beforehand and make sure we work out all the kinks before we get into business with a new enterprise or a new operation. It's been a good relationship and we feel like they're able to obtain objectivity.
Jim, I just want to follow with your question about Scott. But you guys thinking about, I know that, rotation?
Yeah, we're really not. And maybe I can go into a little more depth on the two schools of thought theory. So one school of thought is you should change your auditors every few years because you will get more objectivity, like Jim keeps referring to, and they're not close to the city. And therefore you would think they would have a better feel for looking for problems, whatever that might be. And there's validity to that school of thought. I'm not saying that's wrong. The other school of thought is the longer you have your auditor, the better and closer they know your operations, so they know where to look for potential problems. Whereas new auditors, it takes them a long time to climb that curve, so to speak, across a number of years. Recently, we actually just had, I can't remember, was it Standard & Poor's or Moody's who did the rating confirmation on us, Jim, where that was actually one of their questions, where they were asking us if we changed our auditor. And my interpretation of the question, how it was worded, and the answer they were looking for was it would have been a negative to them if we had changed our auditor. I don't know if you wanted to speak to that any, Jim, but.
Sure. That was Standard & Poor's, and it was a fairly in-depth analysis of the city to reconsider our rates and make sure they reaffirmed all of our rates. And in that questionnaire, in that interview, they do ask about a change of auditors in particular because they're concerned that a new auditor may either miss something or they don't understand something. There's a possibility of restatement. So they do get some comfort in understanding that their auditor has a deep understanding of the operations of the city. So it was a benefit for us in that respect, for sure.
It's not really my concern, but just kind of like, I don't know, I want to bring it up. Maybe they're in a comfort zone, maybe they feel very comfortable. And they say, well, this area, I'm going to make a box, I check the box right here, done deal. This one, nothing. That's, is that because 20 years, you know what I'm saying? No, if you guys not concerned, that's I'm okay. But that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I understand that concern. And I actually, when we set our this out for RFP a few years back, I looked at several firms in other cities and the types of audits they were receiving, and it was quite enlightening. There's a number of cities that receive audits that are basically a check the box type of an audit. I can guarantee you that does not happen here. And I think the members of the audit committee that have gone through the audits understand how complex the city is. And I think we really benefit from somebody that understands it. As Mr. Pyle had mentioned, there are, when a new audit firm comes in, there's a huge learning curve. And we're very, very complex. It takes a very large staff amount of time to actually, don't want to say figure out what we're doing, but be able to connect those operations in a way that makes logical sense and then check for our compliance. The current audit firm stays up on their training. They have a good relationship with the state auditor's office, who were ultimately responsible for their audit. And we feel like they really work with us well. They rotate their staff fairly frequently. That kind of makes us a little uncomfortable, but that's not a bad thing. I think it's a good thing, gets new fresh eyes on it, but they also bring the institutional knowledge of the operations of the city, the audit each year. Another thing you'll remember is it takes us quite a bit of time to get through our audit, and we're very lucky to be able, well, I wouldn't say lucky, but we're fortunate to get the audit done on time just because of the complexity of it. Their experience with the city and understanding the operations contributes to the successful reporting of that audit.
I would add to what Jim's saying, Tom, that your concern is not a light one. I mean, we don't feel entirely comfortable, and we do recognize that there are things that you need to do to keep them kind of on the ball and keep things fresh. Jim referred to one of them where they switch up their staff quite regularly. Another couple of things that we do are things like we will ask them kind of out of the blue, so to speak, hey, we'd like you to take a look at this area this year, whatever it might be. Maybe it's something that we just had a question about, or maybe it's something that's new, or maybe it's something we had a finding in the year previously and we wanted to look at it again. So that's one way we also try to get an extra look, so to speak, out of them. Another thing we do is we try to make ourselves really very available throughout the staff and not put any obstacles in their way so that they can go talk to anybody they want, ask any questions they want. For example, they'll randomly ask people, they'll randomly select people out of the city and then they'll go straight to them and they'll just like, hi, I'm Phil Warnock. Are you aware of any fraud, waste, or abuse going on in the city? And could you tell me about it? You know, just like straight out, which is kind of a blunt way of going to sort of surprising people, and not to put them on the spot, but you tend to not give them time to think about it, and therefore you're more likely to just get the straight answer of yes or no or whatever it is. Yeah, I was really worried about this, you know, kind of a thing. You guys can actually see the result of that. Although they don't say it that way in the audit, you'll see references into things like their opening letter to the audit world. They'll say things like, we had complete access and cooperation from the staff during this audit this year, and we had no concerns or problems with how the staff interacted with us while we were doing our audit. That's the kind of thing that they're referring to, that they had access to anyone and anywhere that they wanted to go to. It doesn't completely address your concern of maybe they're getting too comfortable, but it does give us a way to sort of watch if they're getting too comfortable or not, if we see those sorts of things are going on and happening. So I would say, are we ever completely comfortable? No. Are we comfortable enough that we would prefer to go with them? Yeah. Would it kill us to switch? No. It would be pain in terms of time. It would be more expense, all that sort of thing. And someday there may be a reason that we just plain want to, but they do a good job. They're one of the premier municipal, at least, auditors within the state. They've really built that sector or skill over the years.
My personal feeling is that 20 years is a long time to go with one auditor. And if there ever was something that came up, that's going to be a question that we're going to have to answer as a council, is why did we do this 20 years in a row and not change things up earlier?
Yeah.
And so that's my feeling is, and I know my regular day employer, they switch auditors probably every 4 years just for that purpose. And they're a quasi-state agency. So they have to be overly vigilant, I think, when you're that public trust that we have. So,
well, if you did want to switch them, I'd recommend doing it next year. It's kind of too late for that now.
Yeah, the gray started.
Right, but we have no problem doing an RFP process and looking at other people. If you guys want to do that in the upcoming year, we'd be fine with that. Wouldn't be any issue.
Okay, Lars has his hand up, and he is the chair of the audit committee, so.
Thanks, Mayor. You know, the concerns that you bring up are concerns that I've had as well, but I agree with Wayne and Jim, and you know, they've been doing a great job for 20 years, and we haven't had these issues come up, and to me, that's a reason to keep them. They're helping to keep us honest, and I feel good about them in working with them through the committee.
Well, and I can tell you that in the past, I've been concerned about the complacency if they get just too comfortable. But with them switching up the person this year, that made me feel a little bit better about it. And hearing that the state auditor and that our rating company doesn't have a problem with being 20 years. But we may want to send out another RFP.
Sure. 7 years has been a long time to not even have an RFP. I
Yeah.
would agree with that.
And look at the possibilities out there and do it in a timely manner so that we're ready for next year. And not halfway through an audit before hey, wait, let's do this.
Right.
So is everybody comfortable with that? Okay. All right. Thank you. Anybody else have any more questions? Okay. All right, we'll move on to resolution 22-118. And this is Mr. Johnson concerning, and he is in person again. He started early, taking care of problems before the meeting.
Dan Johnson, Public Works Director. We bring to you an interlocal agreement with Salt Lake County to perform a chip seal on 7200 West between Parkway Boulevard and SR 201. You may recall we did the same thing last year. So 7200 West is the western boundary between West Valley City and Magna Metro Township. And Magna has contracted with Salt Lake County to do a chip seal on their side of the road. And the last segment that we did turned out great and is performing well over the last year. And so we'd recommend that the council execute this agreement for roughly $87,000 to treat this next segment of roadway together with Magna Metro Township.
Okay, so my one concern, we had the county do sill for us in the previous, and when there was a particular street, 4400 between 31 and 35th, it peeled almost instantly.
Yeah, the
So
plows
are they
pulled
better
out.
at their job now?
We think so. I
Okay.
remember when that happened. I was not in this position, but I remember
Right.
that, and Russ was dealing with that at the time, and
Yeah.
and they didn't warranty it and take care of it. But I think that they've resolved whatever issues those were. And this, I went out and looked at this last segment, and it seems to be performing well.
Okay,
And so I think I feel comfortable in recommending that we hire the county to do this piece.
do we have any warranty on this one now?
No,
Since
I mean,
they've
not
done this in the
necessarily.
past?
No, I mean, if it fails unreasonably, I think we could work with them, but as far as a legal obligation in the agreement, once it's down and kind of accepted, then I think it's ours.
Okay,
Dan, I can't get my issue paper to come up, but, or I wouldn't be asking this question, but what's the north-south? Is it the whole border
It's
or?
from 3,500, or excuse me, from Parkway Boulevard to SR 201.
Okay.
So last year we did from Parkway to 35th. And just for your information, this past funding cycle with Wasatch Front Regional Council, working together with Magna Metro Township, secured funding to reconstruct essentially from roughly 35th South to about 38th South with federal reconstruction type money. So that's kind of 5 years out, and that's a real rough section of roadway, but have a plan. So
horse and buggy,
horse and buggy, yeah.
what we say when we drive it.
That kind of shape, yep.
Okay. Any other questions for Dan? Okay, thank you. All right, the next one is resolution 22-119, and nothing I have done will bring it up on my computer.
I have
And
it.
I can't find the picture I sent off yesterday. But
I don't know if I have that.
did it download on everybody else? Nobody got it. Okay. So it is mainly just a letter of support for the Utah Olympic Bid Committee. They're putting paperwork and items together to submit, and they need it as soon as possible. So I received it yesterday and I got it on the agenda fast enough.
So that's not the picture, but it is the
Yeah, it's
language,
the actual,
right?
it's very vanilla. It's very just, we support the Olympics. We're gonna be happy to have them in our city. We'll do what we have to, like ADA, we'll follow all the regulations. And then they'll ask for a more formal commitment from the actual, just the city later. But this one, Salt Lake, Kearns, and ourselves will be sending in letters of support just to show the bid committee that we're really serious. So can we see if we can get that out even in an email? Yes. So everybody can review it before next week?
Oh, nobody's been able to see it?
No, I couldn't and everybody else just.
I
said no
think
as
it's
well.
available on the website, but for some reason it didn't push through that, so I'll figure out what's going on.
Okay, Beyond Base didn't work. Okay. So there's that one. If you have any questions, mark it up for next week and then we'll talk about it in this meeting. But it's pretty easy one, and Salt Lake kind of composed it, but it seemed like, I mean, you reviewed it, it seemed just fine.
If it was coming from any other entity than Salt Lake County and Salt Lake City, I would say, yeah, it seems fine, but.
It's just the
because of my
principle of the
nat-
thing.
Just because of my natural concern, it makes me wonder why this, why now, what this part, but everybody just take a read at it and see what you think. I don't have any particular problem with it.
I didn't see anything that stood out as concern.
Yeah.
Darren just needs it to put with all of his paperwork to just get that part. Then when it comes down to our support specific for West Valley, then we'll get more into the nuts and bolts of
Yeah.
that will comply with everything.
I did also, just for double checking, if anything comes back, I'll let you know, but
You can
I
make it.
put in a call to Colin Hill of the Olympic Committee just to make sure they were okay. with
Yeah,
it,
Colin
too.
was in the meeting as
Oh,
well.
he was there.
Yeah,
Okay. all right,
Colin
good.
and Darren were there.
All right, good.
Yeah, and then West Valley, Salt Lake, and Kearns.
Kurtz. All right.
So he was good with it. And then we're really pushing to, as city leaders, to have more interaction with our school age kids. So those early events that don't have as much attendance, getting free tickets and getting the kids, the school kids to those events. Does that sound like something that would be supported here? Okay, so we're really pushing to do that too, to kind of get kids get into it, because there's a lot of people that it comes to our community, but they don't have the ability to go to it. And so we're looking at that as an opportunity as well. So if you have any other ideas, let me know and we can take it to the meetings. Okay, if there's no other concerns on that one, we'll go to the new business, which is Mr. Lehman, and he's on Zoom. Consider application SMI 4 2021.
Thank you, Mayor. Steve Lehman with the Planning and Zoning Office. So this first application is a request for property just south of the Chevron on 54th South and 5600 West. It is a request to subdivide the property into two pieces for future commercial development. So you'll notice on the south of this property, there's another piece of equal size. We haven't yet taken in an application on that piece, but we'll be doing so in the future. So as you can see from this illustration, the property right now is presently vacant. We did have a couple of slides to show you here. So the next slide is just looking south along 5600 West. And to the right side of the slide is the Chevron station. The next slide is looking across the Chevron station. And while we're on this slide, we'd just like to point out that one of the things that the developer and Chevron have been able to coordinate is reciprocal access. So where you see the patch of grass in the distance, just in front of those trees, there will be an access from the Chevron site into the commercial development to the south, which will help with traffic circulation in the area. And the next slide is looking just due west across the property. And I think the last slide is looking to the northwest. You'll notice here that there is a relatively good amount of slope on the property. So on the right side there where all the trees are, the darker trees, is the Chevron site. I think the last slide is the subdivision plat itself. So you have two lots. Lot 1 is next to the Chevron. Lot 2 is the piece to the south. Access into this project will come from 5600 West along the south boundary of Lot 2. So as I mentioned at the beginning, so there is this lot as well as the lot or the parcel to the south. They will share an access from UDOT on 5600 West. And then at the northeast corner of Lot 1, there will be a reciprocal access to better maneuver vehicles in the area. And that is our report.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Lehman?
Steve, I'm looking at the parcel map and it looks like the property to the west of that is owned by the Utah Transit Authority.
Correct.
What is that zoned and what are our thoughts there? Just we're kind of almost landlocking that other than our little bit of frontage on 54th.
Yeah, so there is access on 54 and there is access, and it very well could be that access comes from, if I get Eric to go back to the aerial photograph. So these two pieces of property became available for sale. And they coordinated that with, so this access that comes in the middle of these two pieces, the one highlighted in red, and then the one to the south, very well could service as access to the back piece, as well as frontage, as you mentioned, Councilman, along 5400. We haven't had any development proposals on that property at the present time. So it is a challenging piece of property for sure.
So I can't see Lars. Is he good? There's no hand up. Okay. So anybody else have any questions? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Lehman.
Thank you.
And then we'll move on to consider application SMI 3 2022. And this is Mr. Lehman as well.
Thank you, Mayor. So the council may recall last year, the Valley Fair Mall wanting to create individual lots for properties along the north side of the mall site as well as the east side of 2700 West. And those are shown here in red, lots 1 through 8. This application completes the phasing of the out parcels, if you will, into individual lots, shown here as lots 9 and 10. I do have just a couple of illustrations to show you. So this first illustration is what will be known as lot 9. It is on the north side of the plaza. The next illustration is a little bit of a zoomed in version. So this is where the Zupas is located. So that will consist of, or what will be lot 9. And then the next illustration is lot 10, which is to the south of the plaza. And just another zoomed in version. One of the things that you'll notice from this illustration is some new improvements in the plaza area. If you recall from earlier discussions with the mall, one of the primary driving forces of allowing an opportunity for property owners to buy these pieces of property is to reinvest funds back into the mall itself, not only to service debt, but also to make improvements to the mall. And some of those improvements are manifest in the plaza area. They've made it more accessible, a little bit more open, and also for some mini concerts and those kinds of things. So they are doing what they informed staff they would last year. And this is just the next set. Actually, the only 2 other outbuildings that would be platted as lots. And then I do think we just have the subdivision plat itself, pretty straightforward. This is lot 9 on the north and lot 10 on the south. And that is our report.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? So each one of these lots only has one business, right? They're not a 2-business building. They're not a strip mall type situation.
No, they actually have multi uses. If you think of the Zupas, you have the Zupas on the end, and then you've got a couple of other uses, the same on the south. And we discussed that during the procedure last year. The whole discussion of a shopping center came up, and it was determined that these are not shopping centers. They're part of an overall shopping center, but they are multi-tenant buildings.
Yeah, I'm still not comfortable with that. Not allowing a strip mall on a smaller piece of property, but allowing this, so. And then we did give some money for the plaza upgrade as well, correct? Didn't we do some funds towards that?
That I do not know.
Yeah, back in the original mall redevelopment agreement of like 2008.
Oh, we didn't do anything last year with our
We may
COVID
have.
money?
We may
Or-
have, but I don't remember us doing that. We did the
Yeah,
Plaza Cycle. We did Henry Day Ford.
right.
Maybe we did do some of
I
this.
thought we did $1 million here as well.
Oh, Mark's here.
There we go.
I
Mr.
didn't even know you were
Dr. Pepper
here.
knows what's-
Okay, Mark, yes.
You want to
Yeah,
join us
Come
at the
on
front?
in. Come on up.
There we
Thank
go.
you. Good job.
Gotta turn around to see if they're there though.
Hello, Council. Mark Nord, Economic Optimization Department. The mayor, you're correct. I want to say it was, it was the early rounds of that first ARPA funds but it wasn't ARPA, but it was around that same time that we received those, that we did the Polaris, we did
Program that we did.
the Plaza, and it was for $100,000 that we
Oh, okay.
participated in that.
I had $1 million on.
And just for the council's record here, this subdivision that's taking place is because the mall is currently entered into an LOI with a large developer that's going to be partnering and infusing a lot of capital into the mall. This is just a formality at this point to further those negotiations so they can actually transfer ownership of some of these parcels and then still retain ownership of some of them that they'd like to. So they're kind of piecemealing and dividing what that should look like. But the development partner we're excited about because he's very invested already in West Valley City. And we're hopeful that negotiations will continue to be positive as they move forward. So.
Okay,
Mayor,
yes, Go ahead.
Mark, you there, so I have a couple of questions for you, Mark. So you said they can have a LOI.
Yeah.
Is that very strong, very kind of moving forward, or how is?
Yeah, things are progressing really strongly to the point where I feel like I can tell you that we have a good potential partner on the line here. Initially, we've been working with the mall for a while now. We want to make sure that they're capitalized to match the vision that we have on our side of Fairborn Station. And we've been pressing them very aggressively to kind of bring up the mall to the standards that we have here on Fairborn on this side. So they're trying their best and they're great partners. This is their largest portfolio, or their largest asset in their portfolio. So they are very prioritized in making sure that this is a good asset and that it's kept up. But I think there's just limitations on how big that they can do. And this mall just requires a lot of infrastructure. Capital demand is really high. So we see this as a positive with bringing on this new capital partner. We think it'll be a good addition to the mall ownership group. So, yeah.
So it's very impressive tenant.
He's not bringing in any tenants at this point. He's just coming in to bring in a lot of capital and refinance some of the debt that they have over there to try and make things a little bit more flexible for them to do some additional developments. So we do have some potential good new tenants that are really looking strongly at this mall and the area surrounding it. And we're excited about it. But as you see with these lifestyle centers, I can't even call them mall anymore. You have to infuse new things all the time. And we're doing a great job on the perimeter. I think the interior still needs some love, but we're getting there. And I think the influx of adding the Spring Hill Suites and the Costco just being a B+ A- store are really the main drivers right now. I think those are the two big draws. The Pins and L's, which was the recent expansion on the west side, has been doing phenomenal. So even now that COVID's kind of slowed down.
Yeah, I think it's great if they try and doing that. But one thing I'm concerned about, Mark, maybe we gotta monitor very closely. We remember the Kmart, the old Kmart, 4107 Redwood Road. The Kimball, they came in and they said, well, hey, you guys gonna do the zone change for us, and we did the zone change for them, and they turned around, they sold that one, they walked away.
They did.
And again for this guy.
No.
I'm saying because they
100%.
take small pieces, that I
You
hear.
don't want to carve it up.
Make it even for when the profit, when the money they put in, they make a profit, they move out and they sell it easily for this, the mall.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying?
We've expressed those concerns with the mall owners and making sure that they've, obviously we don't have control over who they partner with, but they're cooperating with us very closely on this discussion. So I feel confident that we'll get a good partner that won't turn and burn, so to speak.
Hopefully not like people, I think they fool us out for that.
I agree.
one nicely.
I agree.
Yeah.
Okay. Seeing nothing else, thank you so much. All right, now I'll go to our communications, and we have Mr. Morris to give us a code enforcement update or
All right,
process
very
or
good. So
something.
yeah, really all he's doing is giving you a review of how the code enforcement process itself works at the request of the council some weeks back. I can't remember how long ago it was.
Thank you, Lane Morris. Great to be here. I really just have a couple of slides here. I tried to just in a very quick process kind of go through the couple of different tools that our code enforcement officers typically use to achieve compliance with city code. Just as a quick refresh, prior to 1998, I believe it was, code enforcement was performed as a criminal activity. And after years of trying to do it that way and just frankly failing miserably with judges and the length of the process, we instituted the civil process and started doing those things. We did your basic, what's listed in Title 10 for a few years, which really started from just either a notice of violation, giving 10 days, or an administrative citation, which gives no days. And after a few years of doing that, we realized so much of what we were doing was education that we added the courtesy notice to that. And so you see that as the first step in the process. Thank you, Eric, which is not anywhere in Title 10. If you're interested in the process, it's all listed in Title 10 of West Valley City Code. So really, these are the two tracks. Our preference is largely to use a notice of violation. Officers have discretion to resolve the issues in ways that they see fit, and it really depends on the circumstances, which track they use, depending on the type of violation, the history with the complaint or with the defendant, their response to the officer's request, and that type of thing. So I won't go through and read it all for you. It's all right there. I'm really, I think the next slide is the narrative. It's the code enforcement courtesy notice that we've come up with, that we've kind of fine tuned over the years. So that's really about it. I'm ready to take any questions if anybody's got any.
Well,
Yeah, go ahead.
yeah, we recently, allowed the city to have a tub for the front yard. And basically it's to reduce our water uses there. You see any change in our city? It's a minor or?
As a trend, we saw that the pandemic, it was an interesting part of the pandemic. People really, that first year, really took and added interest in their yards. We saw marked improvement in landscaping. I wish we could take credit for that as code enforcement division, but I think that was just people were spending more time at home and wanted to take the time. I think we're seeing the rebound of that right now. I think the trend's headed the other direction. Landscaping, if you ask me, seems to be suffering, and we haven't done the survey yet this year to find out for sure, but that's my suspicion that we've slipped on a lot of landscaping issues.
So what are we doing? I mean, I will tell you straight up, my lawn is the color of that wall, except for a few little green every once in a while. But it's mowed, everything like that. So is that legal or am I out of compliance?
The ordinance is written that your grass has to be green and growing and no weeds. So, we're all out of compliance if you want to go by the letter of the law. So it's really what standard do we set for the code enforcement officers? And really, when they're looking at a lawn, that's the thing they're looking at. If somebody's got grass and they've let it go that sickly yellow, where if you water it for a couple of weeks, it'll be looking good, then yeah, they're not dealing with that. If somebody has, it's all morning glory, it's dead, and it's now, not only is it not yellow and dried out looking lawn, it's actually dirt showing through where that lawn's not coming back, then yeah, they're taking action on that. So it's really a case by case basis. And certainly some lawns are halfway there, halfway dead. Some are all the way dead. Some have never had landscaping. And this is a great excuse not to put in landscaping. So there's a pretty wide continuum of people's landscaping, but that's really for the officers, weed free or weeds at least chopped down below 6 inches. And hey, if you want to let it go yellow, then, that's a process. I mean, I tried that. I tried to hold off watering my lawn and it was almost, I was looking at that one day and you realize, whoa, I really should have got the sprinklers going. And it took me, I'm not sure if I saved any water because by the time I put enough water on it to actually get it growing again, I don't know, it was maybe a break even. But
I've just been following the twice a week, the time they've said, and that's when it's done.
Mm-hmm.
I think somebody's cheating at the businesses because it doesn't look like my front lawn, but I mean, a little bit more stern at my own house, but
yeah.
So that was my question. I mean, I love it when it rains. That's an extra watering. But
right?
then I have that smart clock that then doesn't water because it rained. So then you're back to still just 2 a week.
Yeah.
So that's what I didn't know for those who are trying to follow the rule. What
And the officers,
consequence?
sure, and the officers are, I mean, they're not quick to, because they realize, just like you've alluded to, it's a process to figure out how little water your lawn can take and still survive.
Yeah.
And that changes, as you know, we get a week with no rain and what you thought was fine is no longer fine, and vice versa. So we're all trying to get through this. The officers are trying to be aware of that. And so really the thing that catches their attention is somebody that's got dirt showing and all weeds, and they look and there's really not much grass, one way or another. So they've got other things that are, I think, more important and that they can have an effect on. We can't, we're not going to go water somebody's lawn for them, install their sprinkling system and all that. We're great at taking things away. We'll go mow the weeds down. But, if somebody just doesn't want to mow or water their lawn, we can issue them a citation, give the administrative citation. Here's your $100 citation. I hope it was worth it. And what we don't want to do, which they could do, is go every week and issue $100 citation, $200 citation the next week, and a $400 citation after that. And we could get everybody in the city with thousands and thousands of dollars for all summer long. And I think we'd probably just have a little bit of a revolt.
Well, and that's just it. I mean, the governor's saying doing one thing, the water district's saying doing the same thing. But then if we're penalizing them for doing what they've been asked to do,
Right.
that's my question.
Yeah. Yeah, the landscaping, really for that reason, and just because at the end of the day, it's not something that we can enforce.
Okay.
It just by the nature of the job, it tends to become a more of a secondary issue. So if somebody's got cars parked all over the lawn and all that, and it's a dead lawn, yeah, they're going to add that too. But they're not going up and down the street and dinging people simply because their lawn's brown.
Okay.
Well, Elaine, thank you for saying that. I think it's good to hear that. So basically, I should try to translate this, my own opinion. So that means that when your focus basically is more than something more important than that, maybe like cars parked on the lawn, right? People have the junk cars in the back or something. I agree with you with that. I think that's our focus, because sometimes people really concerned, neighbors really concerned about it. So many cars parked on the lawn and cause a problem in the neighborhood, and maybe junk cars in the back, and so many things happen in the back, yeah.
And, we try and give people their backyard. So he fences that thing all the way around. The code enforcement officer can't see it. And they're not going to peer over people's fences. So unless the next door neighbor says, I'm inviting you to come look over my fence onto the neighbors, there's not any way we're going to see that. So we try and give people their backyard, and so those, the color of your lawn becomes one of those secondary things, like seat belts that the police officers do. And the way we work it is, if once we're at a property, we're going to address everything. If somebody's, they're just driving down the street and see a vehicle parked on somebody's driveway and the plate's expired, they're not going to address that. But if they're also vehicles parked on the lawn and everything else, then yeah, they'll write them a notice that vehicle needs to get registered and licensed or put in a garage. So those types of things end up being secondary to the things that they really can have an effect on, and say, either do this or we'll be to do it for you, is what that ends up.
What's the difference between the tracks? What makes the decision which track you take?
There's a whole bunch of factors into it. Probably the simplest way, if somebody, for instance, if somebody's parking over the sidewalk every day, they come home from work and park over the sidewalk, but they leave every morning. If you do notice a violation, you do a courtesy notice. You're going to give them a courtesy notice. They're going to call you up and say, I fixed it. And we're going to close that case. And then they're going to park on the sidewalk again. And we'd have to write a notice of violation, which then gives them 10 days to fix it. They'd call us up and say, I've fixed it. We'd close the case. And we'd just be, nothing would ever be accomplished. So if somebody's parking on the sidewalk on a regular basis, or let's say they park on the front lawn on a regular basis, but the car moves on and off the front lawn, that would be something that we'd say, stop blocking the sidewalk for the kids, making them walk into the street. And then if we see them parking on the sidewalk, then we just issue the admin cite. Here's your $100 citation. And every time we see you with a new violation, a new instance that you violated the law, then you've come into compliance, and now you've re-violated, then we'll issue another administrative citation. So they just fit better to gain compliance on something that can be easily remedied and then unremedied by somebody. A lot of the parking things fall into that category where you're parking someplace you shouldn't park on a regular basis. Somebody's got an old broken down vehicle that's not going to move, and they've got it parked, across the sidewalk, or it's parked on the front lawn or on a not a proper surface where they're not going to move it. It's going to be in violation. It's going to stay in violation. Then we do a notice of violation, say you've got 10 days to get that moved. And then if they don't move it in 10 days, then we can simply go abate it and remove the vehicle for them. So that a notice of violation would work better in that case. Sometimes somebody, they have that vehicle, and so they say fine, and they haul it down to their buddy's house, and then once we've signed it off, 2 days later, they bring it back and put it back in the same place. Well, in that case, the officer might just say, if you want to play it that way, I won't do the notice of violation. I'll just give you an administrative citation. Here's your $100 citation. And I might come back next week, and next week it'll be 200. So they really have both tracks for each type of violation. And we give them a lot of latitude to do what they think will accomplish compliance.
Nothing else? Okay, thank you. All right, now we get to go do a tour. And
Yeah.
Chief,
100
they're all
degrees
out there. I'll probably take my sweater off for that part,
I think I'll take my jacket off. But yeah,
but
they're
all black's not gonna help.
right, but they are out there.
I think we're gonna,
Do you want me to finish the rest of the agenda and then go out there, or are we gonna come back and finish up?
I would say go ahead and finish the rest of the agenda.
Okay,
Then we'll
let's
go
just
out.
finish it up and then we'll be done after the tour, if that's all right with everyone.
And thanks, Nicole. Was John going to introduce from here, or what's going on?
He was going to.
He was
Okay, all right, we'll do that.
So hang on just a minute.
Yep.
All right, council calendar, is there any questions on that one? Seeing none. Potential future agenda item.
Still
Yes.
need your response to KPIs.
That was even on my calendar all week. Sorry, I will get that sometime. Okay, and then the project or the new program that the county is reinstating is the TRCC.
Oh,
Travel, recreation, can't remember something.
I didn't know they had, and that did by
They had a
and what they
pause.
meant is they themselves paused it.
They
The
paused
county
it,
paused
yes.
distribution of the funds. The program didn't end. The
Possibly.
collection of the funds didn't end. They just decided not, see.
I don't know about
I
that,
get
yeah.
myself going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So we're
okay,
not
now
gonna
I'm
go that,
tracking you.
we're not going down that rabbit hole. We're just
No, no,
going
no.
down
So
what we can apply
applications are
for.
open again.
Yes,
Okay, all right.
applications are open.
Okay.
So pickleball courts, here we come. No,
Mhm.
there's all kinds of trails. There's a lot of things we can do with that. So just to make sure we know that that is back up and going. Okay. Anybody else? Yes, Tom.
Future agenda or
Future agenda. No? Okay, now council reports. Dawn.
I did attend the Utah Symphony last night
Oh,
at the
nice.
Cultural Center. Great program, but I didn't notice a lot of progress on the reparation and restoration of the gate. It still looks as faded.
Oh, okay. Chinese gate.
Yeah,
I was thinking of the one that got run over out at the ridge the other day. I wasn't quite tracking there yet. Okay. All right. I'll
Yeah.
get with Nancy. I know she either had a contractor and was getting it going or
I
was,
thought she was getting it going, but it doesn't look like it.
doesn't like
Really
there's
is
any
starting to,
progress. Yeah. check with her.
you know,
But you saw the parent gate in front of that gate, Don. You see something up there on the front of the gate?
The Chinese gate?
Yeah, the Chinese gate.
no,
Nothing.
didn't see anything.
I saw, no.
I thought I saw some.
Yeah, I saw something. Yeah, but
Oh, maybe blocked off for construction?
you're fucking trying something like it
But it was
barricade
from the
around
road,
it.
Also, the amphitheater there is still aging. And I know it's been aging for many years and has some real problems.
Yeah.
The building under it is still looking like it needs a little love too, so we've got those two problems still out there.
Okay.
Just noticing.
Yeah,
Thank you.
I agree with you. The second one, I think is, I don't know what we're gonna do with that. But we need to do something with that, yeah.
Okay, no other reports? All right, then we don't have a need for a closed session.
No, ma'am.
Okay, so we'll take a motion to adjourn and then we'll turn the time over to Chief Evans. Is that all right? Is that order fine? Okay, and we'll go out and do the tour. So do we have a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. And we're adjourned. And we'll turn the time to Chief Evans.
Hope everybody can hear me. I'm not quite sure.
Yes, we can.
Okay, great. So as you come out here to the west side of the parking lot, you're going to see what we have set up for a mobile operations center. In the event that we can't use fixed facilities, as you come out here, you can see we can run an entire city operation out of what we have. We have about 3 layers of redundant communications that we'll show you. And so I'm going to stop there, invite you all to come out, take a look at it. We'll show you the entire setup.
Okay, we'll see you out there. Oh,
Thank you.
thank you.